Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from astrolada.com. We continue the 2021 astrology marathon with another of your favorite astrologers from Astrolada. This is Josie. Hello, Josie.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back. You are one of the biggest successes of 2020 in the Astrolada family. I think you had like 300 orders on the first interview.
Yeah, it was a little bit crazy, actually. I just wanted to say thank you to your audience. Everyone was so amazing. I was actually overwhelmed with the response. I was really grateful for that.
Well, you did an amazing presentation. Thank you. And I'm sure you'll do a great job now on the Gemini 2021 horoscope.
Yeah.
Plus, Josie will introduce her perspective on the whole 2021 collectively for everyone. Each astrologer is doing that. And then we'll dive specifically into Gemini rising, sun, or moon for 2021. And before I start, I just wanted to say that Josie is making a promotion for her 2021 horoscope. But it's also with a, can you explain exactly what it was?
Yeah, so for the promotions, I'm going to do 2 promotions in the spirit of Gemini. So I'm going to do a promotion on the wealth reading that was previously offered. And then I want to switch it up a little bit because I am having that conjunction in my 9th house. So I did want to combine coaching a little bit with astrology. That'll be optional. It's a bonus if you want it, but we'll do a 2021 prediction. And if you have a certain resolution you're working towards, a certain goal you're working towards, I'm going to combine some coaching techniques and see if that goal is supported, what blockages you might be encountering with that for the given year, just to help you navigate that as well.
So it's like remedies almost with practice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Josie. The stage is yours. I'm so excited to hear what you have to tell us.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I have Mercury in Pisces, so I prefer to have it all in front of me. Otherwise, I get too scattered.
I would never be able to tell you have Mercury in Pisces because you're so organized and well prepared with the previous.
Yeah, if there's creativity involved, yeah. So yeah, 2021, it does have the energy of 5. And I actually had to laugh when I seen Diana's presentation because of course she's a Gemini rising and she covered this as well. Gemini's taking little bits and parts from everything and putting it all together. So I had a little laugh about that.
Numerology and astrology.
Yeah, so I've done something a little bit similar. 2021 numerologically broken down does reduce to the number 5. But I think it's also important going into 2021 to understand a little bit where we just came from, which has been a little bit intense. So the energy of 2020 was connected to the energy of the 4. The 4 in numerology is connected to building a new foundation. It's order, responsibility, hard work, it's effort and implementation as well. And if we kind of translate this into the tarot also, we can see what played out this year in a really interesting kind of way. And I think it's actually a good way to help navigate what's going to be going on next year by looking at these cards. So the energy of 4 is connected with the Emperor. This is a card of Aries, so it is a Mars ruled cards. And this is a card of authority, of leadership. It's the father figure, unyielding power, domination, regulation, conquest, law and order. These are very Capricornian types of themes. And I found it interesting. It correlates really well to what happened astrologically this year because we had Mars in Aries for 6 months, making all these squares to the energy in Capricorn where we had Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, Ketu. And what's interesting as well is if we look at the cards represented by the 4 over here, we have the 4 of Wands. This is a card of domestic bliss, of community, reunions, parties, gatherings. It's a sense of belonging and it's holidays and celebrations. That has definitely been a huge theme of this year. You know, no social gatherings, all these kinds of things. Finding bliss at home because you're in isolation, things like that. Then we have the 4 of Swords here. This is actually a card connected with quarantine and hospitalization. It's a card of rest, retreat, regrouping, reevaluation, contemplation. So we've seen this a lot this year as well.
Yeah, lots of contemplation.
There's just so many synchronicities. I was so excited to kind of take a different approach because all the other astrologers too have had a really amazing outlook of the energy of this year. So I did want to approach it in a little bit of a different way. Then we've got the Four of Cups. This is a card connected with depression, boredom, nostalgia, loss of passion or motivation. It's a card of apathy and missed opportunities as well. So definitely another theme of 2020. And then finally, we have the Four of Pentacles, which is connected to greed. It is savings, it's security, your sense of security, feeling the need to protect your resources as well. Limited resources, control, greed, and control of resources.
Wow.
So I was actually kind of blown away when I looked at it from this perspective, because that just really describes the energy of 2020 for us.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, and then the last two digits of 2020 is, of course, associated with the Judgment card. It's a Scorpionic card, a card of renewal, awakening, reckoning, and transformation. Again, really resonates well to what we've just been through.
Oh, such awakening, such massive awakening. It's
oh, for sure. And, you know, I know some of the other astrologers as well, and I think this will definitely be a huge issue is when it comes to, you know, mental health and anxiety and all of those things. I did want to point out that, you know, with the square that we're going to be having from Uranus, that is nervous energy, nervous tension, all of those things. But if we kind of reframe that, when you have the feeling of excitement, it is very much the same energy as the feeling of anxiety. It's just different thoughts. So I would encourage people to kind of shift their thinking, which is very Aquarian anyway, around what's coming this year, because I think it can be really exciting if we get past some of, you know, dwelling on the past and things like that, and being more open to what's coming here. So the year that we're moving into is connected to the energy of the 5. Interestingly enough, this is a card of the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is connected to Taurus. And of course, the major event of 2021 is this square between Saturn and Uranus coming from Taurus. So keywords of this card: tradition and convention. That's definitely going to be challenged here. Marriage, union, with a lot of the signs, a lot of relationship things are definitely going on. It's, you know, the card of the teacher, guru, pope, religious figures, spiritual figures. It's spiritual guidance and wisdom as well. But it's shared group identity. So again, it's, you know, relating really well to what's going on here. And in the reverse position, because everything has shadow and light qualities, it's also a card of rebellion. That's not necessarily a negative thing. Nothing is really good or bad. It's only the meaning that we give to those things. And with Uranus and Taurus, I think our values will be shaken up a bit, especially with the square to Jupiter. It's going to be values versus belief, which we're already seeing. People are becoming disconnected over their opinions about a lot of what is going on. And I think that's really the biggest issue, is this separation that's going to be happening within, you know, friend groups or social groups, or within relationships, or even just in society, because of these beliefs and things like that. On the negative side, it's also poor counsel, blindly following. So especially with themes of the vaccination and things like that, that's open to interpretation, whether you think that's good or bad. But, you know, there's, even with Rahu and Gemini, blindly following the media, it can manifest in so many different ways. And it can talk about test of values, beliefs, spirituality. And it does rule institutions, universities, churches, banks. And I think there's going to be a shakeup with those anyways. But the 5 in numerology is the card of exploration, unexpected opportunities, new experiences, great changes, progress, creation. It's very exciting, and it's very freedom focused as well. Wow. So again, I would encourage people to just look more on the positive side, because if we look at the energy of the 5 cards, they look very difficult, but again, there's shadow and light qualities. So,
whoa, crazy.
In a way to kind of help navigate, though, awareness is really the key to navigating anything. So with these cards, the 5 of Cups, this is the feeling of lack. It's dwelling in the past. It's trouble letting go. It's grief. It's focus on the past. And we kind of have to get past that a little bit, because things are not going to go back exactly to how they are. So practicing acceptance, forgiveness, healing, moving on, and focusing on gratitude are going to be key to navigating this year. With the 5 of Wands, it is a little bit of a violent card. It represents conflict, competition. It's a little bit aggressive and forceful, but it indicates action. Even though it's associated with battle and rivalry, it is an active fight for something. And again, that can be positive or negative. So just consciously practicing a certain level of cooperation, working towards resolving differences, and mastering of a craft can also be seen with this card. So focusing again on the positive energies around this card can be really helpful with navigating this year. With the Five of Swords, which is the one on the end here, this is the card of winning at all costs. It's connected to disputes. It's also a false sense of victory. It's arrogance, it's bullying, it's defeat. But again, practicing the opposite things connected with this card, this can talk about reconciliations, cutting losses, cutting ties, letting go of what is lost is going to be, I think, a really important theme for a lot of people. And I think that's where a lot of the depression and anxiety will come from, is, you know, not being so open to these changes that are being like kind of forced on us. But it's more of a powerful standpoint to accept that things are changing and how can I best navigate this. And the positive sides of this particular card is also, you know, practicing humility and standing up for yourself as well. And then we've got the Five of Pentacles. That is the card of financial loss, poverty, lack. With Uranus and Taurus, you know, financial things are going to happen with that square with Saturn. That's kind of inevitable. This is the card of insecurity, victimization. But I would say victimization is really the key word, because if you're in a victim state, it's a powerless state that you're not able to create from. But focusing on things like charity and service, seeking help and not being too prideful. Like you can see they're outside of a church and they're just continuing to walk past. So it is like feeling stuck in this energy and not raising your head and looking at the opportunities around you. So finding the gifts through this difficult experience that we've all been through can be really important as well.
Wow. So interesting.
Yeah, so this year, 2021, is connected with the World card. Again, interesting because it depicts the fixed signs where kind of all the action is happening. And it's a card of completion, achievement, success, harmony, a sense of belonging, wholeness, unity, fulfillment. But the fixed signs are about maintaining something, preserving something. And so it's not a very flexible energy. So, you know, it's with those cards kind of involved that it tells me that people may be having a hard time letting go of the old and embracing the new, when there's actually a really good opportunity there to embrace the new and channel that in your own, whatever direction that is for you, and make really good use of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction as well. Okay, so collectively, really quickly before we get into Gemini, the big event is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that moves in 20-year cycles. This one is so exciting. It's so important. It's in a fixed sign. This is the conjunction. It's in an air sign. But this is not only the start of a 20-year Jupiter and Saturn cycle, but it is strongly symbolic of the new era that we're entering, which of course is connected to the age of Aquarius. And it is a conjunction at 0 degrees. Now, 0 degrees is a very, very powerful karmic and anaretic degree. And the 0 degree of a sign is said to be the youngest and the purest form of the whatever sign it is. So it is very much connected to the energy of something brand new as well, which I think is really exciting. And conjunctions, they can be compared to as having like the qualities of a new moon, basically. So it's two energies coming together to create something new. So it's comparable to the planting of a seed. So then we have this occurring in a fixed air sign. And Aquarius is fixed. So there, again, is an element of maintaining and preserving something. But fixed signs are really about sustaining what has already been initiated. And we've seen what has been initiated in Capricorn. So that's a little bit interesting, but it is an air sign. So These are social signs, they're intellectual signs, and they're connected to business, exchange, and commerce as well. So those are going to be really big themes. And there's going to be, for sure, shifts that we're going to see in social, economic, political arenas, 100%, as well as how we interact with each other, which we're already seeing that. So Saturn, distance, Aquarius, social. it's it's really interesting. With that too, it's social distancing is having a bit of a hard effect on humanity, and that's very much Saturn in Aquarius as well. Like, for example, the other day I opened the door at the store for like this little old man, and he was wearing a mask, and he's like 6 feet away, and I just wanted to tell him to F off. I was like, oh, I think your microphone is off, Lada.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. But yeah, this little old man, he had a mask on and everything. I was behind the glass opening the door, and he's like, get away from me, kind of thing. And like, you see your friends at the grocery store and you want to hug them, right? And you can't. And it's we're meant to have human contact and human touch. So that's like it really is connected to Saturn in Aquarius, I feel. And that's a very human thing, and Aquarius is about humanity, and that's one of the blockages that we're experiencing there. And that part of it is a little dehumanizing, especially I'm like a Gemini, I need to like touch things. But then finally we have this conjunction occurring in the sign of Aquarius. And so I find this conjunction actually a little bit interesting to interpret, just because the qualities of Aquarius in and of itself is unpredictability. So I would say that not just in the coming year, but in this whole 20-year cycle that we're entering, the best advice I can give about that would be to expect the unexpected, because there's going to be events that are going to shock and surprise you that are unpredictable in nature. It's going to be a very progressive time period. It's going to get kind of futuristic. It's going to be out of the box. It will definitely break constructs of social norms in a lot of ways, as Aquarius tends to do. But it also carries the energy of freedom, of revolution, of genius, innovation, and it is extremely visionary and humanitarian as well. So there's, this silver lining here.
So we don't want to get into a robotized, soulless society where we're all chipped like cattle,
Yeah.
I don't think
it
will happen. I think they'll start.
Yeah.
Try doing it, but this humanitarian, humane aspect will be very strong, and the consciousness will rise so fast as well. And like you said, it will be unpredictable. Whatever plan there is to more easily control humanity, it will turn around on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can even see that, like, you go in the grocery store and it's like you said, it's kind of robotic. It's like, stand here, stand on this dot, don't touch each other, don't do that. Like, you can't go outside without having to adhere to certain regulations, and people are not going to put up with that forever because it's against human nature to a certain extent. So I think that will be a little bit interesting. But, when Jupiter and Saturn, and you've spoke about this already, when they mutually aspect of sign, it gives a great potential to crystallize opportunities that will last for a very long time. So I think for everybody, both on a personal and collective level, it's going to be very important to get clear of your vision for what we want the future to look like and start making efforts towards those. So that'll be very important.
In your horoscope, the Saturn Jupiter.
Sorry?
What is the Saturn Jupiter conjunction activating in your horoscope, Josie?
Well, it's 4 degrees away from my Venus, but it is in the same sign as my midhaven as well. But my midhaven's not till 16 degrees of Aquarius. But
influence it,
yeah, for sure. So I'm going to talk about that with Gemini a little bit. I do want to cover the midhaven and the different signs, because there's an interesting kind of energy going on there as well. But even just influencing the 9th house for Geminis, and I'm going to kind of get to that, that energy moving into the 9th house is like such a big deal. Such a big deal. I feel like I could breathe just saying it. Like it's been kind of intense for a lot of Geminis here. So, we'll get into that. But Just to summarize the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, the way that I feel this energy when I really sat and thought about it, I'm like, what is this comparable to? Actually, the movie The Matrix came to mind. And that movie has so many like Aquarius undertones, especially in terms of environment and setting and things like that. But there's a scene in that movie that reminded me of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And that's when Neo gets offered like the red pill or the blue pill.
Oh.
Because in that movie, it really does represent a choice between revealing unpleasant truths, which is very much Saturn conjunct Jupiter, or remaining in blissful ignorance. And that's going to be part of the conflict, because some people, just like those cards we're explaining, are like, I want it to go back to normal. I just want to take this and I want it to be the way that it was and everything will be fine. And that's more like blissful ignorance, because even with that, nothing will be the same. Or there's, facing uncomfortable truths and fighting for what your truth is and things like that. So I think, yeah, that will be like one of the biggest obstacles of this entire year.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Once to find out the truth, you can't go back to normal and just rest and just do things like they used to be before. You don't have to change.
No.
You become the rebel, you become the activist suddenly.
Yeah. It's like the rebel or the robot, which way
the rebel versus robot. That's the Aquarian energy.
Yeah.
I love that. I'll put it on the title of this video.
The rebel and the robot. Yeah, so then this squares with Uranus, there's going to be a shakeup in values, what we value versus what we believe. It's going to influence, how we spend, save, invest, and earn. I think things connected to food, transport, banking, financial crashes are probably inevitable. But Taurus is also a sign of speech. And the last time that Saturn was, not the last time Saturn was in Aquarius, but the time before that was when Martin Luther King gave his like, I have a dream speech and things like that. So I think we're going to see some cool people emerge here. I think there's going to be shifts with, our resources, moving towards renewable energy sources, all of those types of things. I also have, kind of a suspicion that something connected to Fukushima is going to come back up, because Aquarius is also connected to radiation. There's this, huge issue still going on there. And actually that happened, I think it was in the other 5 year that we were in, the last 5 year that we were in, which is 2000. I can't remember which year, but that's when the Fukushima kind of event happened. So I'm wondering if things connected there are going to come back up. Okay, so we're going to move on to
2015.
Gemini.
It was 2015, yeah, Fukushima.
What year is it?
2015.
I thought it was 2011.
Sorry, this is.
Okay, so that would have been
yes,
before.
it's 2011. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So just really quickly before moving on to Gemini, this square as well as the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. So the conjunction will be in Aquarius. The square will be between Taurus and Aquarius. So for fire signs, the houses that are getting activated where you can personally kind of feel this tension, because we're not going over all the signs here. We're going to focus specifically on Gemini. But for fire signs, this tension is going to be between your material houses and your social intellectual houses. For air signs, that's going to be between your water houses, your emotional, intuitive soul houses versus, the tension coming from the identity houses or the houses of self. For earth signs, that's going to be between the houses of self in conflict with your material and physical, tangible security and things like that. And then for water signs, that will be a conflict between your social houses and emotional houses as well. So I just wanted to offer that for all the signs before I move on to Gemini. But with that said, I do find it interesting that in particular, in the year 2020, Geminis and Aquarius and Leo, they have had all this crazy energy happening in very difficult houses. And somehow I feel that those three signs in particular are going to be a little bit more equipped to handle this year, and they might become very important figures in some way with this year, just because they've had this experience in very difficult houses, which is very transformational. I've heard you talk about your experience with the 12th house. I've had a very intense 8th house type of experience.
It's almost like
And
when the 8th, 12th, and 4th house are triggered, like they were for all air signs, air ascendant or sun or moon, even in the year 2020, even the year 2019. This is when you you pay off your past karma, so you can start new, because then the energy goes into the self houses, so you're allowed, but you clean up a lot of dirt and a lot of trauma, emotional, psychological. You do the hard work there, and then there's the self-growth in the fire houses that comes. Sorry, Carrie.
yeah, no, that's okay. That's I'm very interested to see about those three signs in particular. I think they're going to play a really important role this year. But so that's the collective part. I'm going to move on to Gemini now. So if anyone is not interested in Gemini, then then thank you for watching. So Gemini, I was so excited to cover Gemini for so many different reasons. You know, first of all, I'm a Gemini rising. And it has not been an easy couple of years for the Gemini. And so much of that has this strong connection to what's been going on through their 8th house. And at this particular point, I feel very well qualified to cover this energy because I had such an intense personal experience with this house and the transits of Pluto, Ketu, Saturn, Jupiter, all through the 8th house. It's been a little bit more intense for me personally, I would say, because I have a natal stellium in Capricorn. I've been going through my Saturn return, which coincided with, you know, the day of my Saturn return was the day of the Pluto Saturn conjunction. And I have been in a Jupiter perfected year. So huge 8th house kind of experience for me. But I am just excited to cover this energy for Gemini because, you know, I'm grateful I get to be the messenger of good news for them. I think this is such a huge year for Gemini, and I'm so excited. It's almost like you've been through the shit and now you get like a bit of a break here. So even when I was thinking about how to describe this, you know, energy that's been going on, this is a house of traumatic events and pregnancy and childbirth and things like that. So it's almost like Geminis have been going through like a 2-year hard labor that's been a little bit messy. And with Jupiter and Saturn moving into the 9th house, this is such a positive house. And it's almost like Geminis are going to be taking that hard labor and giving birth to something. And I think it's going to be something really amazing for a lot of you. So for them in particular, I think that their role in this next 20 years is going to be hugely significant. And the other reason for that is Jupiter and Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. In Vedic astrology, Rahu is also connected to Aquarius, and you guys have Rahu transiting your 1st house. And that's really auspicious to me. But this is basically the year when you guys kind of get to breathe a little bit and you'll emerge out of this metamorphosis. And I think a lot of you guys will use that experience to guide others or use it to align to your higher path and purpose in a very significant way.
Yes,
so
the 9th house, yeah, higher purpose,
yeah,
guiding others.
for sure. And also with this, the 9th house, it is the 2nd house from the 8th house. So it is connected to the values and gains of the 8th house, which I think is hugely powerful. So even if you look at the sequence of the signs and the order that they go, well, how do you gain higher perspective? How do you gain that understanding? You know, when do you make those big shifts that alter your life path? It's usually a result of crisis. Something knocks you off your path or your balance, and it makes you realize things. So, you know, people who have a near-death experience, they find God, or people who have addictions, similar type of thing, or people who have been through traumatic experience, they seek guidance. And actually, as a result of going through that process, you can be the one that offers guidance and knowledge and wisdom to other people. And that's going to be a huge role of Gemini in the next 20 years in whatever shape or form that is. So it doesn't mean all Geminis are going to become teachers and counselors, but it will still apply in a bit of a similar way. It is the house of the teacher, preacher, mentor, guru, guide, coach, advisor that can manifest in so many different ways. And Geminis, over 2020, and this will continue in 2021, I'm seeing a lot of big career changes for them. And this is for a few reasons. First of all, if you have your midheaven in the sign of Aquarius, which is also what I have, then the rulers of your midheaven have been making transits that suggest a big shift in your career, reputation, and social status. Because if your midheaven is in Aquarius, Saturn has been transiting the 12th sign from itself. It's also been transiting the house of transformation. It's made a connection with Pluto. And so, that could be connected to job loss, even working behind the scenes, or working in isolation as well, being in the 12th house from itself, or a big change in your social status, power struggles with bosses.
That's what's happened already.
Yeah, if your midheaven is in the sign of Aquarius, it's kind of like you guys might have an early start at this. That could even indicate having had power struggles with bosses or investing in a business with another person. This is the house of joint assets and resources. So even, personally, my fiance bought a clothing company and I've been helping him a lot with that. So you can see like that. I've had this huge career change. So actually, because of this channel and things like that, I've transitioned out of being a server and working in the pub and things like that. With everything going on, that was actually really a blessing and divine timing, because it was at the exact time that I had got laid off and I decided not to go back. And then simultaneously, you have the co-ruler of Aquarius transiting the 12th house of losses, dissolvement. So there's this energy of big career changes for Gemini. If your midheaven is in Pisces, you also have Neptune there, which can be connected to dissolvement of things, all of those. And of course, Jupiter has also been transiting the 8th house. So similar energy for if you have a midheaven in Pisces. And if your midheaven is in Aries, of course, we've had Mars here, spending a lot of time here and also being retrograde. So, reworking things connected to your career and your vision for the future and things like that. But for all Geminis, the 10th house still carries the energy of career and vocation. And that's interesting because Jupiter will be transiting the 10th house this year, and that'll be from May 13th until July 28th. And then again from December 28th of 2021 to May 10th of 2022. So a lot of Geminis are going to have access to opportunities connected to career. They're going to have luck when it comes to finding career and career opportunities. There might even be a possibility of travel for work, the gain of recognition, things connected to promotions, receiving support from authority figures, and things like that. So, that's also a really positive kind of influence here. Okay. So we've already talked about the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. If you're considering this conjunction as a Gemini, just remember that Jupiter does rule your 7th and 10th house. So this conjunction is also going to affect your relationships as well as your career. And Saturn rules your 8th and 9th house. So your house of belief systems, higher path and purpose, and still carries the energy of transformation and, joint investments and things like that. So I think there'll be opportunities as well as tests associated with these houses. So, there can be, shadow and light qualities with Jupiter and Saturn. They're just very different in nature. So, Jupiter wants to expand. This is where we get the manifesting influence, because Saturn will want to crystallize those things, but it's still Saturn. Saturn's still going to test you. It's still going to demand that you work hard. So this can show, a test of crisis or like a crisis of faith and belief for you, There can be tests connected with career and partnerships. This is in the house of high perspective and things like that. So even though Jupiter is here, you know, this is a conjunction, so it's shadow or light qualities. Again, which way do you want to go? I think there's an element of choice that's keeps coming up this year. But, you know, the shadow side is it can indicate some kind of legal difficulties for Geminis, or that they can feel blocked by old limiting beliefs that may need to be worked through and taken very seriously, and the work needs to be done there. So even though it's a manifesting type of conjunction, it doesn't exclude the nature of Saturn, which is to work hard for those things. And Saturn is actually, I'm a fan of Saturn. It has the potential to give you really, really amazing things, but it wants hard work, it wants discipline. It's not just going to give it to you. But then don't we also appreciate those things that we've worked hard for versus things that are just handed to us, which is the energy of Jupiter, like the trine, right? Here you go. The things we appreciate are the things that we've worked really, really hard for. So that can be important as well.
Last longest in our life.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, this can still bring blockages or delays, regulations, things like that with travel documents in regards to education. You can even encounter very authoritative types of teachers, or very, you know, pessimistic types of teachers, harsh teachers, and things like that. And there can be some obstacles and limitations to be overcome in connection with career. But the positive manifestations is this can bring a very like good manifestation if you are getting serious and committed to a field of study. You can have really good results with that last for a very long time. You can even start studying things connected to ancient knowledge. Saturn is old things, Jupiter's knowledge. You know, Saturn's transiting a sign that it rules, but Jupiter is transiting a house that it rules also for Gemini. So this can even be talking about finding older, more experienced teachers or mentors, gurus, guides, which actually I highly suggest for Gemini if you're not taking on that role, finding your own guidance and mentors and things like that, or finding inspirational figures, cultivating your sense of faith and belief and working hard towards those things can have really, really good results. So I do encourage that. Taking a serious look at your belief systems, things connected to personal development, great year for that. If you're into publishing or writing books, things like that, Saturn is things we do over a long period of time, which is actually, you know, it is connected to novel writing and things like that. This is in the house of publishing. So publishing, you know, there can be really good things going on for Geminis this year. And also working towards like raising your consciousness, taking on leadership roles connected to teaching, you know, being a guru, sharing knowledge, any of those. This can even talk about Jupiter with Saturn. It can be connected to like promotions and things like that. Or even it can give an opportunity to move abroad, or to be even like learning and working online and things like that as well. So quite a bit of different manifestations going on there. So then we've got the Uranus Saturn square. We talked quite a bit about this already, but I did just want to mention that the energy of the square, I want to talk about that a little bit. So the energy of the square, I don't think it's anything that, it's kind of like the energy of Saturn. Everyone's like kind of scared of these things. So it might be an aspect that is connected with tension and conflict, and it can be stressful, but its purpose is to resolve things through action and effort. And it often leads to development, change, and growth, even if it's stressful. And the energy of the square, and I've heard this be debated, you know, some people say it has the energy of Mars, some people say it has the energy of Saturn. I would kind of argue that it's both. And the reason is that if you use Vedic aspects, Saturn is aspecting the 10th from itself, which is the backward square. And Mars aspects the 4th from itself, which is the forward square. And even if we look at, well, I mean, this is kind of going a little bit off track, but like Freemasonry and things like that, they use the depiction of the tool, which is the square, in their logo, which is Freemasonry. If you don't know what that is, it's a secret society. So the square is actually a 90-degree angle tool that is used by architects, bricklayers, builders, stonemasons, And the right angle is very, very important in building strong and reliable foundations and creating buildings and structures that last a very long time. And in Freemasonry, the square is a symbol of our ability to use the teachings of consciousness and morality to test or try the rightness of our actions, is how they describe that. So, with this square, I think a lot of people, there's some fear around this. But the square again is a very useful tool that is going to lead to development, change, and growth. So again, it's navigating what way you want to kind of navigate that.
Absolutely. In astrology, planets on angles from each other, especially a square is an angle, they create yogas for success. So that's definitely to build something constructive.
Yeah. So yeah, even like with certain placements, like planets in debilitation or in detriment, there's a lot of astrologers that are very quick to say that's good, that's bad. Jupiter is good, Saturn's bad. But there's shadow and light to all those things. Jupiter is also overindulgence and it's excess of things. And so it's not always so positive. And Saturn is moderation, which is good in a lot of, contexts and things like that. And even debilitated planets, they have really amazing and beautiful gifts and qualities. So, I kind of challenge, even with the aspects, to look at things from kind of two different sides. So the aspect that's going to be going on all year long for Geminis, well, for everybody, but for Geminis, it's going to be occurring between the 12th and the 9th house. It's going to be felt a lot more subtly for them than a lot of the other signs, because this is a hidden and subconscious house. So, there's conflict or tension between the house of invisible things, of outerworldly realms and beings, and, that could be connected to your dream life. In a material type of way, it can be connected to foreign countries, institutions, hospitals, jails, asylums, all of those. So, maybe with that, you can kind of see it, but it's a very intuitive house. It is talking about things behind the scenes. So maybe things connected to hidden enemies and secrets, those might surface in an unpleasant way that becomes disruptive with the energy of Uranus there. And, this can cause a disruption to, if it's foreign countries, then that can disrupt your travel plans. If it's some kind of, secret or hidden type of experience, it's something that can really disrupt your faith and belief, either in yourself or within your own belief system. It can be unseen forces somehow, hindering something that has to do with education and things like that, for sure. But it's a little bit interesting because these are both like Jupiter ruled houses. So I think it's more going to be felt on an internal level. And it's almost like a lot of the realizations that you guys might have might be a little bit uncomfortable. They might test your perspective of the world and things like that. And so that's where I see kind of this playing out most strongly. Oh, I think your microphone's off again.
I said it might not even be external so much, like a just big shift in your perceptions and beliefs type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, that one will be felt a little bit more subtly for Gemini. So I don't want to focus too much on that one. And we've already kind of talked about that. We do want to talk about the Mercury retrogrades though, because Geminis are ruled by Mercury, of course. Huge shift here. This is actually really good. Mercury is moving into air signs. So that is really, really awesome. The past, with them going through water signs and things like that, I've had some kind of intense Mercury retrogrades being, ruled by Mercury. That's kind of where you go and what your experience is. And so some of those retrogrades have not been the easiest in the water signs and things like that. But the other thing here is that Mercury is going to be going retrograde in your trinal houses or your houses of Dharma and things like that. So it's going to be making positive aspects towards your ascendant. So it still carries the energy of the retrograde, which is revising, reworking, revamping, revisiting, redoing something in these areas of life. And, Mercury retrograde is connected with these minor inconveniences and all these little things. but it is going to have a positive result being in these trinal houses, and it's likely to also kind of like feel good or you know, produce a result that becomes very beneficial for you. So when Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, that'll be from January 30th to February 20th. You know, you can expect that there might be some issues, delays. You may need to rework or revise things connected to your travel plans. This can be connected to travel documents as well. So maybe you've planned a trip and, you know, especially with these squares from Uranus in the 12th house, maybe there's some disruption kind of going on there as well. You know, this can be a time period when you are rethinking what you want to do as, you know, a career, what you want to do in terms of education, and really thinking about that and seeing what way you want to take that. Or you can be totally revising what you're already studying and make a dramatic shift there. You can also come back into contact with, you know, certain teachers that you've had, do a lot of reflection around your path and purpose, you know, do some of the internal work. Retrogrades are an energy of internalization about your perspective on things, you know, so all of those. Then Mercury will go retrograde in the sign of Gemini from May 30th to June 22nd. And this one, well, for the first house, it can, you really want to see your personal chart to know exactly how this is going to play out for you. But it is the house of the physical body. So you might be rethinking, you know, things connected to your path and purpose, or to your appearance, or to the way that you're showing up in the world, how you're interacting with others. This can also be something that you're kind of contemplating about. And, you know, so that can even indicate like doing some introspection about your whole kind of life path. You can be involved in a lot of mercurial types of endeavors at that time. And then, you know, bringing those forward when Mercury finally goes direct. Then we've got Mercury going retrograde in the sign of Libra from September 27th to October 18th. So this is definitely something that can bring back old love interests. You can be focusing on bringing romance back into your relationships. You can be picking up old hobbies, things connected to, you know, even like things from childhood. So being like nostalgic, and getting in touch with, you know, your self-expression. So, you know, these are the houses of the self. There's going to be a huge like reevaluation of how you're approaching the world. These houses, like if you break them down, yes, we know that, you know, the fifth house, this can, you know, involve children, talents, hobbies, interests, the way you express yourself, creative pursuits, and all of those. But these are all houses that are connected to your identity very largely. So the overall energy of Mercury retrograde in the air signs is a reevaluation of the self and how you're showing up in the world as a whole. Okay, then we've got Rahu and Ketu. So we're going to cover the eclipses just very briefly. We have Rahu and Ketu on your 1st and 7th house axis right now. These, of course, are the nodes of the moon. Rahu is the head of the dragon. So, you know, this is obsession. It's an insatiable energy that has this strong desire for, you know, hunger. It's moving towards something. It also indicates quantum leaps. And so, especially with this transiting the 1st house, I would kind of take note of where your natal north node is as well. So for example, I have the north node conjunct my midhaven. And so it's been kind of like quantum leaps and a huge energy of amplification and change and things that are very foreign and different to me in terms of career and things like that. So always tying in the energy of where that is for you natally as well. But Rahu is going to bring you in contact with, you know, foreign and unusual types of experiences. It's very experimental energy. So even in terms of, you know, your physical appearance and things like that, you can really be kind of trying new things or kind of going out there. You're going to encounter, especially if the eclipses, when they make direct activations for you, it is talking about karmic and fated events. That can manifest in so many different ways, depending on kind of what you have in Gemini, whether that's your ascendant, sun, or moon as well. but Rahu is the attainment of something. It's the achievement of something. But the main thing for me here is quantum leaps. It's quantum jumps. So, you know, especially with Rahu being, if you consider it to be a co-ruler of Aquarius, you know, it is transiting your first. I think that's it's creating a very powerful and karmic alignment with your path and purpose. Or you can even become fanatic with things connected to the ninth house topics and energy. So I think that's also favorable for travel and relocation. Even though there's so many travel restrictions and blockages, somehow I feel that Gemini is a little bit like they might still experience that, but I think
work around it. They'll find a way.
yeah, there is something going on there. So with Rahu's transit through the first house, you know, this is a 18-month time period when your path in life can be karmically altered. You can be coming into contact with a lot of fated relationships or events within those related relationships as well. So for example, I actually I had an eclipse on my Jupiter, followed by my ascendant is quite close to Jupiter, even though it's in Cancer. But when Venus and the North Node were conjunct my ascendant in August, I met somebody very, very quickly, very Rahu type of energy. I got engaged within like 3 months. With this South Node in the 7th house, honestly, it was like, I feel like I've known you forever. It's been interesting. So that's definitely one of the manifestations that can happen. But it is Rahu. It's like, I want it now, I want it fast. It's like, so it's interesting, but you know, this can also give a rise in life or a lot of personal experimentation. And then the one thing though is your physical body, and Rahu is, you know, foreign substances and things like that. So health is something that can be affected by the eclipses for sure.
I read that Rahu is tattoos. Have you added new tattoos?
That what?
I read that Rahu is tattoos. Have you added new tattoos?
Yes, actually I did.
Okay.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Actually, yeah, I did. And it's a snake, it's not a dragon, but
oh my God. Wow, that's huge, amazing.
that's so funny. I never even thought of that. Okay. Okay, then we've got the South Node, the tail of the dragon. So this is very, you know, intuitive, spiritual type of energy. It can be connected with dissatisfaction, disappointment, refusal. This is going through your 7th house, which is relationships, partnerships, contracts, agreements. So there's themes of this here. But again, the more positive manifestation is you can kind of manifest a past life connection of some kind, or you can become, you know, in contact with very spiritual people and things like that. You can create spiritual partnerships, which, I mean, again, I'm living proof of that because I'm on Astrolatus. So with this though, the 7th house is the house of, it's one of the houses of projection. So it's not just a house of others. It can be connected to how others view us and how we project ourselves to others. And I've actually noticed with this as well, and it makes sense with Rahu being in the 1st house, there's a strong energy of focus towards the self. And it can cause you to act in a way that's a little bit different than how you normally have acted in the past. And with the South Node in the 7th house, people can kind of feel even like you've lost your mind or like you lost yourself, or they feel very disconnected from you because of these radical changes and things like that. And that's also something that I've been kind of interesting or experiencing. So I did find that kind of interesting as well. And, you know, even in terms of encountering very spiritual people and things like that, even through being on the channel, the clients, you know, they've been amazing, but they're very spiritual in nature. Your audience is very, very tuned into a lot of things. They're, so, you know, that can also be connected. It can indicate on the shadow side a release from, you know, a certain contract or agreement. And again, that can be positive or negative. You can, you know, with Rahu in the 1st house, you can be really focused on, you know, what it is that you're wanting to achieve and my higher purpose and exploration of the self and experimentation, all those things that might, you know, turn your partner off or create this certain level of disconnection, but it is a time period when you're meant to kind of focus in that direction. And if that's creating, some distance or disconnection there, either that will pass or that person may not be meant to be there, to a certain extent. I mean, there's compromise and everything and all of that, but it will, kind of remove some relationships that may not be totally in alignment with you, or that you have paid off this past life karma with and things like that. So that might have played out. So you can see that as well. But again, you can also attract, some of these past life connections, these deep spiritual bonds as well. So very interesting. So the eclipses, we've got lunar eclipse, which is a full moon eclipse on 5 degrees of Sagittarius, May 26, 2021. Solar eclipse, 19 degrees of Gemini, June 10th, 2021. Lunar eclipse, 27 degrees of Taurus, November 19th, 2021. Solar eclipse on 12 degrees of Sagittarius. I really feel that with eclipses, you want to see the whole chart. So, I did just put below that if you have activation of eclipses, you're going to want that to be within a 3 to 4 degree orb. If it's affecting your ascendant, it does have the potential to alter your entire life path, as well as your physical body. If it's happening in connection with the descendant, that will be affecting partnerships, contracts, agreements. Obviously, the midhaven will be career, vocation, legacy, your highest achievements, title, and public image as well. So below we just have, the sun, if it's making a connection with your sun, with your moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So if an eclipse is affecting your sun, if it's the north node, it's going to be about attaining something. If it's the south node, it might be about releasing something. So, with eclipses in particular, I don't really like to give too much of a prediction unless I see the personal chart of someone.
Even then, you need to know a bit about their life, but they can be quite unpredictable for me.
Yeah, and they're kind of intense in nature anyway. So, I did just put the planets here. So if you have activation of any of those planets, it can bring those themes and things like that. Just remembering Rahu is, the attainment of something, movement towards something, and the South Node can be more about releasing something. But with eclipses, I think they're kind of like serious type of business, and the whole chart should be looked at personally. But yeah, so that's actually all I had.
Wow.
I think those are the main kind of things for Gemini.
Thank you so much, Josie. You shine the game.
Oh, thank you so much.
For all the keywords here, so for people who are having eclipses on the planets. It was again a lecture in astrology that you gave us. And I'm so happy about you. You're engaged. You're doing a new business with your partner that you've met. This is amazing. Wow.
It's been pretty crazy. It's been a very exciting year, even though, with all that crazy 8th house energy and things like that. Saturn, again, it will leave gifts when it leaves a sign if that hard work and all those things have been done. And so, I'm excited for Geminis, the ones that have done that work, to also receive some of those rewards, and they were not earned easily. So enjoy them.
I have a couple of Gemini rising girlfriends that started businesses with their husbands or partners during the big 8th house activation in 2020, 2019 as well, which is about 8th house's mutual project as well. It's, combine your resources and everything. And you've met a soulmate. I think the South Node through the 7th house, the eclipses helped, and did that activation fated. But I've heard, I met my life partner when Jupiter was in the 8th, and you had Jupiter in the 8th from the ascendant, and that's again connected to soulmate kind of connection as well. So
actually, when I was taking classes with Victor, he was even talking about the 8th house, and he kind of like challenged me. He's like, because I was going into a Jupiter perfected year, and Jupiter was still in Sagittarius. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to like meet someone when I'm, going through like my Jupiter through the 7th house. I was so pumped. And then I did move into Jupiter perfected year, but Jupiter was transiting the 8th house. So I did find that interesting. And then, you know, simultaneously, I had the South Node conjunct my descendant, North Node conjunct Venus, and then through zodiacal releasing. Actually, when I was taking that course with Victor, I had written down on a piece of paper this date, and it's when Venus got activated on that exact day from a level 1. I mean, if you understand that technique, but you can pinpoint it to the day. So I had that date written down with a question mark, and I found it a month after we had got together, and I was like, no way. It's crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, when you get multiple indicators, then it's, you know, it gets a little bit stronger. But
This is
yeah,
incredible.
I agree with, you know, Jupiter going through the 8th house, or that 8th house energy being connected to soulmate energy. I do agree with that one for sure.
Doesn't happen every time for everyone, but it's a strong,
No.
you know, you need, like Josie said, a few different things to activate. And wow, and
Yeah.
Josie is amazing predictive astrologer. She has only 80 spots, and 80, she can take 80 people for those promotions that she's doing, basically future horoscope, with coaching, or the money finances horoscope that she's doing discount on. I would advise you, if you'd like a reading with Josie, get on fast, because the previous time in one day she was booked with hundreds.
It did take me a while to get through those. Yeah.
Thank you
Actually,
so much.
I was talking to Darren, another one of your astrologers, and that was interesting too, because when you had hired me on, we started talking, and he gave me my first reading from your site. And I asked him before I started learning astrology, I was like, should I pursue this? And he's like, yes. And
Setting it that short?
oh
Oh,
yeah.
oh my
So
God, I need to see your horoscope. Oh wow, you're incredible. You must have some indications that you've done this before. It's
oh, I've got yeah. Well, I have an 8th house stellium. I've got Moon and South Node in the 3rd house.
oh, that's, you know,
So
that's also the channel of Moon and South Node is past lifetime as a high priestess. And because
yeah,
Moon in the third is a high priestess with South Node Ketu, you
yeah.
even channel the truth type of thing. Definitely. Wow.
Yeah. And actually, Darren told me too that when you hired him on, same thing. He was in a 7th house perfected year, and Rahu was transiting his 1st house, which is
Wow.
exactly what I have as well.
Wow. Amazing. I'm not hiring you, I'm partnering with you guys. You're my partners, not my employees there. I'm learning so much from you. So
Sorry, the 7th house, not the 6th house.
yes, exactly. That's why. That's what I'm like, you're this new generation of astrologers that I'm meeting through you, through Darren. They blow my socks off. They're so good. I mean, are you the ones with the Saturn in Capricorn generation and Uranus there?
Yeah.
You're bringing this knowledge from past lifetimes, this ancient knowledge.
Yeah. So in Capricorn, I've got Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Mars.
Wow.
In the 8th.
Oh, wow, amazing. Oh, in your 8th house, and there you go. You bring this. So thank you so much, Josie. I
You
can't
are so
wait
welcome.
to see you again, to tell us what's happening with your new business, the fashion. Shall we do astrology fashion one day?
Oh, I've been thinking about it. I'll keep you in the loop about that.
That sounds amazing. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great new year. Thank you for giving confidence to Gemini. They need it, and your Geminis are coming into amazing times. Bye bye.
Bye.